Big story we are tracking here on CNIBN, the big breaking news that we are getting. The walls, it seems, are closing in on BCCI chief N Srinivasan. Two top BCCI officials, Ajay Shirke and Sanjay Jagdale, quit last evening. And now BCCI Vice President Arun Jaitley has also finally broken his silence and suggested that a significant development could take place within a day. Sources are also telling us Srinivasan has agreed to advance its emergency board meeting to early next week. Sources also say that many office bearers are likely to resign in the wake of that controversy. Remember the news that we are just getting. BCCI sources have told CNIBN the message is clear to Srinivasan, that members have conveyed to Srinivasan, either you go or all of us will put in our papers. This even as Mumbai police continue to question hotelier Vikram Agarwal for the second day today. But first, listen in to what Arun Jaitley had to say.
Now, after the resignation of Shirke and Jagdale, there were also rumours coming out that probably all the 5 vice presidents, including you might also step down in order to mount pressure on Srinivasan.
Wait for a day and you'll hear something significant today.
Okay. To help us understand all of this better, we have Sanjeev Mukherjee, our associate editor of cricket, joining us live from the newsroom, as also Pallavi Ghosh, a senior editor of politics, who's joining us on the phone line. Pallavi, if I could come to you first, that big breaking news that you're getting. BCCI sources have told CNIBN that the members have conveyed to N Srinivasan that his position is completely untenable and either he resigns or all of them will go.
That's right, Pallavi. Within 24 hours of those 2 resignations, we are being told by our BCCI sources that in a sense the rift is almost complete. We have been also told by BCCI sources that the threat which has been given to Srinivasan is that if he does not agree to step down as soon as possible, then the vice president, particularly of the BCCI, will also step down. So what they are telling Srinivasan is that either you go or we go, which means the pressure, the moral pressure is certainly increasing on Srinivasan to step down, and along with this is the fact that preparation for an early BCCI special meeting is already begun. The earlier date, of course, which was given was likely around 8th of June, but we are now being told that it is likely to be preponed to much earlier. So the preparations for the special meeting has begun. It becomes increasingly untenable for certainly for the continuance of Srinivasan. But what we are also being told by BCCI sources is that ideally they would like a situation where Srinivasan himself steps down rather than call that meeting. But if Srinivasan still remains adamant, so far he does seem to be so, Pallavi, then of course those preparations have already begun for the special general body meeting.
Sanjeev, if I could come to you, could this possibly be what Arun Jaitley was hinting at, that the members have now decided that it's not up to Srinivasan anymore, he has been way too defiant for way too long?
That's right. In a sense, Mr. Srinivasan has remained defiant of whatever has been happening in the BCCI in and around him. But the matter of fact is that, yes, there are more resignations which are expected today, starting with, if I'm not mistaken, my sources in the BCCI saying that the Central Zone Vice President Sudhir Dabir will lead the charge when he'll put in his papers sometime in the afternoon, followed by a couple of other Vice Presidents. Interestingly, the East Zone Vice President Chitrak Mitra has refused to quit. He's in fact said that I have got nothing to do with Srinivasan's resignation or his position becoming untenable within the BCCI. But if you note, most of the office bearers are in a position in which they are likely to quit, but Anurag Thakur, the Joint Secretary, the reason behind Anurag Thakur remaining there still in the BCCI is that the BCCI top brass, which includes Mr. Shukla, Mr. Jaitley, Anurag Thakur, and of course Sharad Pawar playing from the outside. The fact is that they are basically waiting for another day or two in which they will see if Srinivasan takes the stand and actually puts in his papers. If he doesn't, then 10 of those working committee members will be actually asking for a SGM, the special general body meeting, and that's what Anurag Thakur's duty will be. As the Joint Secretary, he will convene the SGM, and once the SGM is there, it will be only a battle of numbers, Pallavi.
And Sanjeev, so far we have seen Mr. Srinivasan being completely defiant, even distancing himself from his son-in-law, saying he was just a mere cricket enthusiast, and Mr. Srinivasan himself had done nothing wrong, so has no reason to resign. How is he so confident that he has the numbers on his side?
Well, basically, let's not forget that in spite of this entire new group which is trying to get him out of this BCCI president's chair, N Srinivasan himself is a very powerful administrator. Is unquestionably till about recently was the most powerful man in world cricket. The fact is that Mr. Srinivasan, I'm told, was waiting for Gurunath to be set free on bail, and after that he wanted to call a meeting. But the fact is that now things have taken a different course. It's not really in his hands. And as something happened which was very important yesterday is that the treasurer and the secretary quit the BCCI. That has put him in a really difficult situation. It's very difficult for him to wriggle out. And in fact, even if the BCCI members do not actually convene a SGM, Mr. Srinivasan will eventually, even if he doesn't stand down himself, will have to call for an SGM, because that's how, or rather that's where you elect a treasurer and a secretary. You cannot just choose it randomly. So it's difficult to say whether he will actually understand what's going around him and possibly walk away, because there is enormous pressure on him. But if I know him a little bit, he is a fighter. He will not give in so easily.
Fighter, a master tactician, but what will Mr. Srinivasan do next? Pallavi, if I could come to you. It's just pressure is not building just on Mr. Srinivasan but also on the other board members of the BCCI. Yesterday we heard the Prime Minister in fact speak out and say that sports and politics should not be mixed. So there's increasing pressure on the entire BCCI to act and clean up the mess.
You're right, Pallavi. I mean, despite the fact that the Prime Minister said that sports and politics should be kept separate, unfortunately, that's not really happened. And that's why this throws up this huge debate once again, that should politicians actually get into sports bodies. So far, the government has been maintaining that safe distance, not wanting to get involved in any kind of a probe into this whole IPL mess, despite the fact that one of the most powerful allies and one of the number 2 virtually within the UPA too, Sharad Pawar, has asked for a Home Ministry probe. But then we have been saying this, that government sources have made it very clear to us that there is an ongoing probe. No need for the government to step in by way of any probe being ordered by the Home Ministry or even by the CBI on its own. But now what's going to happen is, Pallavi, is that once Srinivasan, whenever that situation ends, when he steps down, if he does, and matters cool down, the pressure will again come back on the government. And this is the time when the opposition is likely to step in. Remember, the sports bill could not be passed even in cabinet. And, forget the going to parliament. It's your own members, your own ministers who resisted the sports bill. You had to lose out on a sports minister. Ajay Shirke was replaced by Jitendra Singh. That's going to be one challenge for the government, whether they'll revive that sports bill. But the second, of course, is also the anti-fixing bill. Will that bill really have any meat? Will we actually take on and fix the fixing problem? And of course, whether it will again be cleared in cabinet and finally will be cleared in a monsoon session of parliament.
Pallavi Ghosh, Sanjeev Mukherjee, stay with us. Let's listen in now from Jairam Chota, who's one of those members probing that IPL mess, the spot fixing scandal there. Let's listen into what he has to say.
Team is not there, only 2 members are there. Unless the full commission is there, I don't think we can function now. Probably it is left to the BCCI to appoint some other person. No, in fact we wanted to have a small preliminary meeting. But in the meantime, it so happened, one of the members has resigned.
Things are just getting more complicated, Sanjeev. Take us through what happens from here on.
Well, basically, there are 2 ways to look at it, Pallavi. Yes, at the time of reckoning has come for the BCCI, for the leadership out there, be it the Rajiv Shukla, Arun Jaitley, Arun Thakur camp, or be it N Srinivasan on the other side. What happens is that, as I'm saying, it's just basically a very complicated game of chess at this point of time. Although it is believed Mr. Srinivasan doesn't have the numbers, the Jaitley Shukla, Rajiv Shukla camp is thinking, and they are actually hoping that Mr. Srinivasan takes the cue, succumbs to the pressure which is being exerted on him with all these high-profile resignations, and actually calls it a day and walks away from the BCCI. That's what they're thinking. If he doesn't, then what happens is that 10 of the 30 members, which is 1/3 of the voting members, will actually call for a special general body meeting, and if they do so, then Anurag Thakur, the Joint Secretary, will convene that, and that's going to happen within maybe another 3 to 5 days. Once that happens, it will be a battle of numbers. If the anti-Srinivasan camp is able to get 24 of those 30 votes, which is a clear 3/4 majority, then they will obviously have the last laugh. If Mr. Srinivasan gets at least 7 votes other than his own, then he will still stay on in his seat of power. So a little bit of complication out there with regards to voting, but the way it is going, The BCCI officials are very, very clear. We have asked him to go. This is an untenable position, and at this point of time, there needs a total cleanup. We are not going to listen to anybody's defiance, even if he is the most powerful president in the history of the BCCI. The fact is that if Mr. Srinivasan does not stand down, BCCI members will be impeaching him.
Sanjeev, stay with us. Let's listen in now from former BCCI Chief Jagmohan Dalmia on what he has to say on this IPL mess.
As far as I am concerned, I told yesterday itself that if the heads are to roll, let the heads roll, but clean the cricket. And I am maintaining that cricket must be clean. I don't know by the rolling of the heads whether it is going to solve it, it is going to help it. Allow me, let me understand what is happening.
There was Jagmohan Dalmia there asking for a complete cleanup of that IPL mess. Sanjeev, if I could ask you, this Gurunath Meiyappan was arrested last Friday. There's a sense that BCCI has acted very slowly. Srinivasan, if anything, should have just stepped down on moral grounds, on propriety. Why has it taken BCCI so long to get its act together?
Well, there are two contrarian views on that, Pallavi, because in a certain sense, Srinivasan is BCCI and BCCI is N Srinivasan, because he holds unquestionable authority over the Indian Cricket Board. And the fact is that there was a proxy battle which was being fought possibly with the help of the media, because Srinivasan on one hand was saying he was defined, he had nothing wrong to do, he had done nothing wrong, and why should he step down? On the other hand, the other members were speaking to the media, giving us rushed sound bites, saying that it's a question of morality, it's a question of probity, and the fact that he should step down on the grounds of propriety. But it never came to a face-off till about yesterday, when I think it was a masterstroke to get the Treasurer and the Secretary, Mr. Ajay Shirke and Sanjay Jagdale, to step down. What has happened is that the BCCI cannot function right now. What we are seeing right now is an Indian Cricket Board without both of its arms. The Treasurer and the Secretary are the two most important office bearer in the BCCI, without whom the BCCI cannot conduct any business whatsoever. And even if the President now himself wants two new people to be appointed, it has to be done through votes. And where does the votes happen? At the SGM, Special General Body Meeting. That's something which we need to be very, very clear about. And the SGM is exactly what the other members who want him out of his position are aiming for. So it's a battle between the entire, more or less, the entire BCCI top brass and unquestionably the most powerful man in world cricket. We'll have to see whether he becomes the first BCCI president to get impeached.